Good afternoon. It is exactly 5:30 on 5:30. 5:30 on 5:30, right? And I'm going to try something. I'm going to try to do a sort of meet me halfway kind of thing. I was looking at the videos that I did this time last year. I have a particular kind of attitude, I've got a particular tone of voice, a particular style of presentation. I started noticing sometime rather recently that it seemed as if somebody else has exposure to my videos. And the limbic resonance with the viewership of my videos now is very different than it was around this time last year. Now, because I don't get any actual data to confirm who it is that's contacting me and what their networks are, and usually what I get is a lot of bots that have some sort of ping on pornography. I deal with this the way that I deal with this, right? I have plenty of videos, plenty of things that I've been trying to present and trying to get some feedback on regarding what happens both psychologically and biophysiologically when you're sex terrorized, including with pornography, right? And this brings up all these questions, especially when you're isolated, you don't have anyone to talk to, you certainly don't have any physical intimacy, and you're also in a situation where you're experiencing significant acts of defamation. So, in the course of this, part of what comes up is considerations of presentation and the kind of effort to find a manner of adjusting to the pressure to try to market oneself as if we're a commodity. Now, at one point in time, I agreed to submit public comments to the Federal Reserve about changes to monetary policy and the manner in which the Federal Reserve was going to implement policy changes in connection with other agencies of the federal government. I did not understand or even know that there might be an expectation of a commitment. I didn't know this. I didn't also know that public comments are actually a form of currency. And when you provide a public comment, you are actually contributing value to the economy. Now, somebody may say, I really want something else from the economy. I'm not really liking what this comment is saying. But there are a number of people, and in actual constituencies of people around the world that not only want that as currency, but need that as currency. And they have their own currency that they need to have matched appropriately. See, I understand that we have been in a protracted series of intentional artificial currency devaluation based on a depreciation because the kind of currency capable of being produced is not met or attempted for some form of exchange with a comparable currency. We're not talking about application of the bell curve. We're not talking about redistribution of wealth. We're talking about a form of economic engineering that doesn't have very sustainable long-term viability. There's plenty of people that already know about this. But for some reason, we're in this kind of holding zone where certain people have priority in being able to make decisions and apply them, including in connection with misrepresentations and continuing to perpetuate misrepresentations of people's value and people's worth. So that's why what I'm going to do is I'm going to acknowledge myself a year ago and what I think would actually be, I would hope, a requiting. And so I'm going to do that with the next three videos, and I'm going to try to keep them brief. I recall at the time last year, I was making videos a little longer than they are now, right? But I also know somebody else has had access to my YouTube account, and there are a number of videos that have been altered. Some of my playlists have been altered. Some of the actual things I say have been changed. As if somebody took what I did and they made some sort of crypto out of it, or they made some sort of transaction out of it, and they strategically changed certain phrases or words. Now, I've got a very substantial number of videos. I contend they're very valuable. If you don't like what it is I'm presenting, it doesn't give you a right to obstruct it from being able to circulate in the appropriate context. It also doesn't give you a right to do what I already know you've done. In some way, shape, or form. This is operating in some sort of staggered VPN, right? So, one of the reasons I'm so focused on myself as an object as opposed to trying to network with other people is because A, You've already conditioned me to understand I'm not going to get any responses comparable or commensurate with what I'm capable of and what I desire. You've already conditioned me on that level for what, 4.5 years now? Okay, so there's that. And two, you literally have created a circumstance where you're contriving my viewership. You're contriving my viewership and you're refusing to actually provide disclosure and confirmation of not only who the viewership is, including their demographics or their expectations, but what kind of feedback they actually want to provide me with. See, I'm going to let you know right now, you would get a lot more diversity, you would get a lot more perspective, you'd get a fuller range if very necessary priorities were attended to adequately. But if they're not, what you see is almost like a flood. See, you know that there's a little crack. And if you don't attend to it, the pressure's going to build and that crack will expand. And at some point, the levee's going to break. But for whatever reason, you want this and you want that and you want this and you want that. And you know there's a currency. There are personnel. There are materials specifically devoted. And there's even money for it. But you want to use that money for something else. And so you make a justification for letting that crack get bigger and bigger and bigger until the levee breaks. Everything's flooded. Then you want emergency assistance. Right? So if you are somebody that really wishes me personally a greater stability or a more well-rounded experience, or maybe you think, you know what, I kind of like her. I just wish she was a little more upbeat. I wish that she understood that things aren't so droll or drastic. You're not the demographic you want this to represent, right? That's not who you are watching this, and I know that. So if you stop trying to insult my intelligence, you might be able to do something with my intelligence, right? It's not a state secret. It's not classified. It's not even confidential, right? Thank you very much